Hey everyone, welcome to the intro of episode 31 of the podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Phil.
And that is the first and last time you're going to hear him on this episode, because today we had a remote guest, and because of scheduling, Phil had to be at work and wasn't in this episode. But the guy that was the guest today, longtime friend, his name is Mike Consiglio. He's been a friend for a long time. We have a lot of shared video game memories that I wanted to talk about. And also, he is the co-author of the comic book, The Block. Yester Lester and him just made a comic book. So anyways, on this episode we talked about a bunch of stuff. We talked about how a couple of rock bands that we were in, bands that we were in, you know.
Okay.
We talked about, Mortal Kombat. Talked about
that's your new Telltale.
That's exactly what I called it, was the new Telltale, is because I talk about it every episode now. We talked about Batman a little bit. We talked about Half-Life. We talked about Fallout. Talked about some game remakes. Some sequels.
Sounds like a good spectrum.
I don't know. Yeah, we tried to cover our bases. So much so that we didn't get to two of the main stories that I wanted us to talk about. One of the reasons I had him on the podcast was to tell these two big stories. We just BS'd for so long and had so many tangents that we never got to that stuff. So he's agreed to come back on the podcast. Hopefully, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to make the next episode.
Sounds good.
So like I said, we had a remote guest, so the audio level on his side might not be super great, so there might be some clicks or pops, so please just bear with us on that. It's the price we pay to have an awesome guest like Mike. So hope you guys enjoy the episode. Check out The Block Comic. It's also on Twitter, at The Block Comic. Go ahead and follow them and continue to not follow us. And subscribe to us and rate us on iTunes if you could.
Bleep, bloop, bloop, bleep, bloop, 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 bloop,
Yep.
bloop.
Keep going.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
The music broke for this episode, so I'm going to need you to continue.
Okay, how long is it normally?
I don't know, 20, 30 seconds.
Okay. Time me.
Okay.
Ready?
How's The Block going?
It's cool, man. It's sold out.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of times at Meltdown. Yasser had to go to New York for a couple months to do Girls. But anyway, yeah. So we wrote issue 2, but we had to kind of put it aside until he gets back. But
yeah, I mean, for this, if you want, I can credit you as actor and co-creator of The Block.
you can skip actor entirely if you want.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
I can put it in quotes.
Yeah, that's great. The best thing about it was just that the 8-year-old in me is like, all right, comic book done. I can die.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Especially that stores are selling the physical copy of it.
And Meltdown, that's the best part.
Yeah.
The fact that it's Meltdown. But whatever, we'll see. Because he wrote for IDW last year. He wrote on Black Dynamite.
Okay.
So he's got a bunch of connections there.
Anyways, I guess we'll start the episode. I'm super bad at, 1, being professional, and 2, knowing how to do a podcast.
Clearly I'm not the guy that knows, so...
Yeah, but my name's Chris. Welcome to this week. We're without Phil. But today we have a very special guest. Which
special.
is, I mean, we say that about every guest, so...
But really, really sell it this time.
Yeah. We have a very special guest. So special that we decided to record with him even though he's on the other side of the country.
Yep.
So, I don't know, go ahead and introduce yourself. Is that how it works? Is that how talk shows do it? They're like, here, introduce yourself and tell us why you're here. They do none of the work.
I'm Mike, and I'm across the country. And that's all I got.
That's all you got?
So, it's going great.
Well, the reason that I had you on the podcast was because you're a person that I know. We ran out of people that we know to be on the podcast.
I'm so honored.
Yeah, and also we've had like a really good video game luck as far as I feel like we have a couple of really epic video game stories.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're tremendous losers.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get into those.
All right. Our war stories. I'm sorry, our Call of Duty stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions that we ask our guest.
Yes.
They're very first thought questions.
Okay, lay it on me.
But we haven't have enough guests to refine these questions. The first question is sort of like, why do you play video games?
Oh man. Why do I now, or why have I historically?
Both.
What?
I mean, that's allowed to change, you know?
Right. Why does anybody? Because they're fun. Because I often find myself not able to sleep, and it's a good way to kill time.
Yeah.
And because they provide a sense of entertainment that other forms of entertainment, like films, for example, don't necessarily provide anymore. I don't know, because I'm stupid.
Yeah, maybe that was too hard of a question to start with.
No, it's a perfect question.
So why don't you just give us your sort of video game history? Just sort of talk about the consoles you've had or the games you've played growing up.
Oh, boy. Well, I really, really wanted a Neo Geo. I never got it. But I had a hand-me-down Nintendo. Then I got a hand-me-down Super Nintendo. I threw a temper tantrum once when I didn't get a Sega Genesis because my parents gave me the choice of either Sega Genesis or a birthday party at the Discovery Zone. I chose Discovery Zone.
You gotta go with the Zone.
I went with the Zone. I was in the Zone, and it was also... it was the early 90s. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I once rented a Sega Saturn, which is weird that I did that, but I did.
Where did you rent it?
We had this local video game store back when both movies and video games...
Existed at the same time?
Existed at the same time,
yeah.
And I remember, actually, it was like right after this Saturn came out, and everyone was like, "Ooh!" And the only game that they had to rent was Street Fighter, but the live-action Street Fighter fighting game based on the movie.
Wow.
So it was like Jean-Claude Van Damme. Remember?
Street Fighter, the movie, the video game?
Exactly. I think it was even called that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then what? I've had them all. The N64 or the Ultra 64, if you're old enough.
Yeah.
That was probably the peak of my life, frankly.
My life.
That's as good as it got. I coveted it. I read articles about it. I would talk to my friends about it. I would go to bed saying N64 over and over again, and it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And then I broke it, but I was able to use my friends. So basically, long story short, that was my peak. I had a GameCube. This is a great story, by the way.
No.
I had a PlayStation, right? PlayStation 2. Well, I had a PlayStation first, then a PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
It's just now that I'm realizing how much money has gone into my video game music.
I don't want to do the math on just 360 games alone, how much money I've spent.
I'm starting to literally shake.
Yeah.
But I sold my PlayStation 2 to get a GameCube, and then I resold my GameCube to get another PlayStation 2. So I've gone back and forth a few times in that generation.
Yeah.
And then I didn't play for about, 7 to 8 years. Do you know what got me back into video games?
Yeah, when my sister bought you a 360.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah, and she was basically buying me a 360 at the same time. Like, it was just as much a gift for me.
Yeah,
I was so excited for that, and I was like picking out all these games for you.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you have a good week, and that was definitely a good week.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was good for my long haul, I don't know. But and the thing I credit more so than just games are fun, but the thing that has ruined my life is the achievement system, and we've talked about this to no end. But,
yeah, I mean, this whole podcast is basically because of achievements.
do you get an achievement for doing this podcast?
No, but if you make it all the way to the end, the last sound that you hear is the achievement pop sound.
I'm not gonna lie, that's the best idea you've ever had. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, I mean, that's sort of why we started the podcast, and why it's called This Isn't Fun Anymore, is because achievements have sort of ruined our lives, because they're so great and we care about them so much that we spend 100 hours on awful games just to make sure we get all the achievements.
Dude, I will admit 100%, because anyone who sees it will know, I rented that stupid Last Airbender game for the 360 just to get that 1,000-point glitch.
Yeah,
I did it. I spent $5 and I did it. And not anyone else has actually played that game.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, I remember like one summer. I'm gonna say I think it was like 2008. So it was like the summer after I graduated.
Yeah.
I spent just going to Blockbuster, which used to be a thing, and
Right.
renting like sports games and
Yep.
just playing them like start to finish in like 48 hours, getting all the achievements or most of the achievements, and then moving on to the next game. I got like 10,000 achievement points like 1 July.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I'll say it. I'll be the first to say it.
I don't know if that's the word most people would use, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you're in good company here. I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, you definitely have some achievements in your closet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But what are some of your favorite games?
Okay, I knew this question was coming, and I panicked.
Okay.
All time or current, or like what are you looking
Yeah,
for?
like all time. You can even just talk about sort of genres you like, or I mean,
man.
I can sort of answer some of these questions for you if I need to.
You could. What do you think my favorite games are? I'm very curious.
I mean, just based on being around you, I will
Uh-huh.
say that obviously like Half-Life 2.
Actually, yes, 100%. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, and then we have even like, Fallout 3, I think is pretty high on the list.
I certainly have a type.
Yeah, I remember you were playing that game for like 2 years.
Because there's so much to do.
I
still
know,
haven't finished
but like it made me so intimidated to even attempt to play that game. So when I finally did, I set aside like a month of my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to focus this. I like planned it all out based on the story and the achievements. Like I had like a whole roadmap of what I was going to do before I started. And cuz I was like, oh, this is like a 200-hour adventure I'm getting myself into.
Dude, I swear I've never seen a game that... It's insane I still haven't done everything. I remember having panic attacks at 4 in the morning being like, I have to go to bed. When is it going to end?
Yeah.
And it didn't. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Those are the two that just sort of spring out to me. I'm sure I can think of a couple more, but...
I mean, you're on target for sure. I think that the reason I love Half-Life 2 so much, and I've told you this before, obviously I love the gameplay at the time. It was amazing. Still is fun. I love the world and everything. The story's amazing. But my favorite thing about that game is that it's real time.
Yeah.
That there's no like there's something about starting the game and then there's never like a cutscene, there's never an ending or anything. It literally just it's essentially a real time adventure, which for me is a really unique first person experience that I think emulates like a movie or something. Not in terms of it being cinematic, just in terms of the experience.
Yeah, that
which
it's
I
like
really
one long adventure. You really don't have a break. You feel like you're, Freeman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's exactly it. Like if there was like a cut scene where it was like the next day, it would ruin it for me. So anyway, that's why I like that. You're yeah.
I was just gonna say before we move on, did you hear that Gabe Newell talked about Half-Life 3 like this week?
No,
I mean,
you're supposed to tell me these things.
It was like kind of a non-announcement. Like anytime he talks about it, he sort of says, and also everything he says, you got to sort of take with a grain of salt because he gets in very emotional moods and gets in fights with people for no reason. But he basically said the reason that they haven't made an announcement was because they have nothing to announce.
Okay.
And then he's like, that probably doesn't mean what you think it means. And then he was like, the only way that we would go back and do another Half-Life is if a lot of people internally were really excited about it and had something they wanted to do.
Right.
Which kind of implies that they don't.
Right.
And he's like, we could go back to old properties, and he's like, we could forget everything we learned about shipping Portal 2 and just go back. But it's like, even that sentence I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Because it's like, was he saying Portal 2 was a disaster?
Yeah, wasn't it quite successful?
It was very successful, and people really liked it. Sure, it was a little bit different than the first one, but I think it was financially successful, and it was definitely critically successful.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how to take anything he says.
That's really strange.
It sounds like he's saying it's not in development, or if it is in development, they're not far enough along. They want to announce something.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't even know if that's worth talking about. But I just noticed that once again, and then I tried to look it up to actually quote it, and he talked about it almost exactly the same in April of 2012, and it was almost the same conversation. So obviously, I don't know.
Well, why is he messing with me like this?
I don't know.
What?
Like we talked about it on the podcast a couple times, but Valve doesn't know how to count to 3. They can only they do 2 great games. Like where's my Left 4 Dead 3? Where's my Portal 3? Where's my Half-Life 3?
Yeah.
Team Fortress 3.
You're killing me.
Yeah.
You're killing me with the 3 is all I want.
So
well, I mean, either way, I'd play it. So
yeah,
that's
I mean
that's one copy.
I mean, yeah, that's sort of the thing too. It's been so long that nothing could possibly live up to the hype.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: I enjoyed all the little episodes and add-ons and stuff they did when the Orange Box came out. The Orange Box was like my favorite possession. I love that thing. That was so good. But I don't know.
Are there any games that you wish they made a sequel to or remade? Because I know remakes are kind of popular now.
I mean, going back to my favorite games of all time, my favorite game historically has always been Final Fantasy VII, which I know is an obvious answer, but it really was where I was like, I mean, that game got me to the point where we used to make movies in high school and stuff, and I used to insist I had a full orchestra version of the Final Fantasy VII score, and I would use like the Ares death theme and stuff for like comedies. So I mean, it was great. So I almost last year, actually, I think it was last year, John Williams. They did the Final Fantasy score at the Disney Concert Hall.
Oh wow!
Here in LA, and I didn't go because I wasn't going to go alone.
Yeah.
But
also, you don't want to be seen there.
Yeah, I also don't want to be seen there. But also, imagine that audience.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, I always got, like, when I was out there, going to, like, E3s and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I bought tickets to, like, Video Games Live, which was a thing, which was a full orchestra score that did different music all the way from, like, Zelda to, like, recent games. But I never went either. Like, I bought the tickets and I never went.
You should have definitely gone.
I regret it at this point, but it was one of those things where I was like, I don't know if I want to actually go to this thing. Like,
yeah.
I want to listen to it, but I don't want to. I want to be around those people for that long.
I'm right there with you. What other games do I like? What other games do you know that I like? I like obviously. I'm just trying to think of the games that had like seminal moments where I spent too long playing them.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Resident Evil before.
Oh yeah.
To the point where I used to play it at home, and my brothers, who couldn't care less about video games, would sit there and watch it because it was like watching a movie for them. So they would literally watch me play Resident Evil, which I think says something about the game.
Did you make it all the way through 6, Resident Evil 6?
I did, yes. I think.
I just remember they have it's a bunch of different stories, right?
Oh, you know what? I'm just now realizing I never finished it.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Right. Well, I mean, after Resident Evil 4, I think you probably haven't been that happy with the games.
I just wish they weren't called Resident Evil, because there's something...
Or just had like a spin-off title like a lot of them are. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'm aware the series needed to shift in its paradigm. Like, I like the over-the-shoulder camera and everything. It's cool. It's just there's something about... More so than the gameplay... It's the thing that appealed to me about the first one was literally like kind of the haunted mansion feel. It was like it was this isolated mansion in the middle of the woods. It was creepy. It was the visual, the aesthetic, that whole thing that really got me going. And then when they started eventually unveiling, subterranean whatever, the labs and stuff, that was cool because it was expanding on what they did. But when you jump right to that stuff.
And it was such the opposite of everything you were doing.
Yeah,
like you're the super old, gritty, dark mansion to this brand new, state of the art, well lit, clean, laboratory setting. Yeah,
strictly from like a story standpoint, there were really interesting turns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the new ones, the globe-trotting ones, again, it's not that I don't like them. I like them a lot. It's just that they've lacked some sort of whatever Resident Evil was to me, whatever it felt like. And you know what? To a degree, I also miss the stuff that I'm sure maybe now that I'm older would be really obnoxious, like unlocking the different doors and collecting different items and stuff. There's just something about it that, at the time, really got to me. I admit I've downloaded the old remake, the remastered remake that they have now put on Xbox Live. Downloaded it, but I haven't played it yet. So,
I mean, anytime we have conversations, I think of like 10,000 tangents to go on.
Go.
But one thing I do want to bring up is we have a buddy, Jake, that's on the podcast a lot.
Yeah.
And he was trying to argue with me that Resident Evil was a good movie. And I wish you were there just because I'm sure you can talk about this for hours.
I can and I will. We're going to take it. I won't, but I'll sum it up like this. That movie is... Can you curse here?
Yeah, absolutely.
That movie fucking sucks. It's not even a movie. To call it a movie is an insult to movie. Look, Paul W.S. Anderson is, for my money, the worst director on the planet.
Right.
And I say that confidently. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I mean, you evolve, but still.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even call him a director at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, would we call him that? But, all right, Resident Evil. First of all, I looked forward to that movie before Paul W.S. Anderson was attached to it, because for a long time, if you remember, George Romero was doing it. I read his script. It was great. George Romero's script was the script you wanted. It was the haunted, not haunted, but, it was the mansion. It was dark. It was gritty, yada, yada, yada. Also, the father of the genre, you know what I mean? Like, how cool would that have been? They kicked him off and got this fucking hack to do it. And first of all, I don't even know where to begin. Looks like shit, acted like shit, terrible script, terrible effect. Like, literally everything about it is terrible. All derivative. Every single zombie moment in that is either ripped from the game, which is ripped from a history of zombie stuff. Not an original thought in that movie. The aesthetic it's one of the ugliest movies I've ever seen. You couldn't shoot an uglier movie. It's like, when people say, oh, it looks like a video game, I tend to think you obviously don't play video games, because look at BioShock, you know what I'm saying? Look at something. Yeah. That's the kind of movie that looks like what people think video games look like. You know what I mean? Like, that movie is one of the most visually displeasing things I've ever seen. And under all that, it's just boring. It's not fun. It's not interesting. Also, to start with the lab shit is one of the dumbest ideas. Especially if you're going to make a movie a year for the next 35 years. With start with what... See, I get overwhelmed. And I just
it's okay.
I can't believe someone thinks it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to argue with him too, and his only argument, like, I didn't have the love for Resident Evil going into the movie that you did, so I'm sure your passion's stronger, even though I really don't like it, and I refuse to watch any of the ones after that, because they just got even more ridiculous. But his argument was, because the whole conversation we were having was how you really can't translate, or at least not... Has it been done so far? You can't translate a game into a movie.
I disagree.
And I know, I was disagreeing too. I thought it could be done. But his argument was, even if it has nothing to do with the game, it was still a good, fun movie on its own.
All right. My counter argument to that would be, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a terrible argument. It's not a fun movie. It's a stupid, boring, repetitive, derivative movie. And if you want to see, first of all, historically, Hollywood has had a really hard time adapting video games. I will admit that. They don't do it well. They don't know how to do it. The irony of that is that they've dealt with the same thing with comic books for years. They never knew how to adapt comic books. You got, Richard Donner got lucky, and, Richard Donner did a great job.
Yeah.
Tim Burton did his own version of Batman, but it was great. And then eventually they got their stuff together and they figured it out. But, have you seen Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah, no, I talked about that. Actually, I saw that after we had our movie podcast, and I was like, this is the closest thing to a great video game movie, even though it's not based on a video game.
It's not based on it, but they dealt with Respawn, you know what I mean? Which is
in
hilarious.
a very fun, interesting way.
Yeah, but, obviously, not anyone could pull it off, but my point is that that's a movie that's references the style of video game, the aesthetics of video game, I would say, more than a story of a video game.
Yeah.
But if you can make a story about literally anything, to say you can't make a movie about video games is dumb. Because Final Fantasy VII, to reference what I just said, is a much bigger story than you can do in one movie. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Fallout is... Look, it doesn't matter. I can rant and I can get annoyed by it. My point is just no one has done it right yet. It is 100% doable. To say it's not doable is to not understand either medium, I think, because you can literally write a movie. People are commissioned to write movies based on Tamagotchi, based on based on
Monopoly.
dolls. Monopoly. You can literally write a movie about anything. To say you can't is dumb, is my
Yeah.
point. It's just that it hasn't been done right yet. And the reason it hasn't been done right is because hacks like Paul W. Sanderson keep making, Mortal Kombat or Resident Evil. And they do it poorly, and because they do it poorly, it gives the medium a bad name.
It perpetuates it, right.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we, I could talk about the Halo movie for
Yeah.
years. Also, the
Okay.
Gore Verbinski,
I really like
Bioshock.
I really like Evan Almighty, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a movie I would kill to see. I can't believe that hasn't been.
I know. I mean, and I'm sure if that situation came up today, they probably would have ended up making it.
Yeah, of course.
But
I just don't understand with the money that the industry makes, how you don't find a way to get over the stigma. You know what I mean? Like for BioShock, I understand the budget was ballooning and everything. And again, Gore Verbinski's weird to me because I actually, for the most part, really dislike a lot of the movies he does. But then every once in a while, I'm like, I like this one. This one's pretty good. Or the first Pirates is great. It's just bloated and overlong and has.
Right. I mean, he was coming off the first Pirates, too, when this deal was happening, and I feel like his visual aesthetic would have been perfect for the BioShock world. Because it's sort of it's sort of, his entire movies kind of have the CG sort of metallic sheen to it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
They do. He uses a very wide breadth of CG, if you will.
Right, but also just everything. Everything sort of has that sort of hollow blue tint to it.
Yeah.
But in a way that I think kind of would have felt right for BioShock.
Yeah, I would have loved to see sets built for that, though. There's I mean, we don't need to get on a CGI tangent.
No. God, what was I going to say? I was going to say like 10 different things during that conversation. But one of the other arguments that I've had is so both Jake and Phil also said that there's no way to properly do a Hitman movie because we talked about how awful these Hitman movies are, and they said, well, you can't have a Hitman movie because you can't have a movie about stealth. That wouldn't be interesting.
Yeah, you could.
I completely disagree. And the things that I think like would make a good, just examples in movies that would work or TV shows was. First of all, you can sort of make it like a heist movie, even.
Yeah.
Like even just the planning and the behind the scenes and the secretive stuff that works. Did
you
see what's it called? John Wick.
I love John Wick. It's like my favorite movie of the year. I love that movie.
But that scene where he goes into that club, right?
Yeah.
First of all, that looked like a level out of Hitman. Like that sort of like European big crowd club where you have to go in and infiltrate. That was like the beginning of that scene was exactly like a Hitman game where he's slowly going in, taking guys out one by one. Like that was fun and interesting. The action was good. All he would have had to do was put on one of those guys' clothes once, and it would have been Hitman.
Yeah, 100%. But that's also to say, like, you can. First of all, movies have been made about stealth for years. I mean, the first Mission Impossible movie, the most popular scene from that movie is the stealth scene where he almost touches the ground.
Yeah.
And so that argument's not 100%. But what you also do in a movie like that, if you're going to make a movie properly, if it's about stealth, you make it about stealth, and then the midpoint, third act, something, shit goes wrong, and that's when you have your set pieces that will attract a larger audience.
Right, because you can do both. Like even in Hitman, even if you're trying to play it where you're just making everything accidents, at some point things will go wrong. Like you're not going to get a perfect run the first time you play the game, so you can still have those shootouts. You can still have those big moments. But another thing that I thought would be just really interesting because the other aspect of Hitman isn't just stealth kills, but it's like when you set up accidents. You go around unnoticed and you set up these sort of chain reactions that create accidents. Was that episode of Fringe with the guy that could see into the future, and he would sort of set up Rube Goldberg machines in the world to create accidents to kill people. Like I thought that was so cool, and I thought like that sort of idea would be perfect to use like a Hitman.
Yeah, I mean, or like Home Alone. You know what I mean? Like you can do. I just when people say something can't be done, I'm like, well, then you're not thinking hard enough. There's always a way, and like I said, people have been making movies about things that have no story for years. So there's always a way to do it. It's just, I mean, the movie was terrible, but did you see Battleship?
Yeah.
The movie was awful. Like I don't even want to call it a movie, but the whole story behind that I've heard at least was that Peter Berg really wanted to make like an alien invasion movie, and he couldn't get it funded. And the way he did it was by slapping the Battleship moniker on it. You know what I mean?
Which is totally, you can tell that it was slapped onto it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a couple of moments where they do integrate Battleship into it,
Right.
and I was like, oh, that was kind of clever.
Yeah,
I guess if there's
yeah.
any way you're going to do a Battleship movie, that's kind
Right.
of it. Unless if you wanted to make it like a period piece.
Yeah, but like this is my point. Like, you know, you cannot adapt Battleship. It's a board game, and it's what are you gonna do? A war movie? There's 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
I understand. Basically, the one thread from that you're like, all right, this is the movie, is the idea of not knowing where your enemy is and guessing, yada yada yada. Which is what? It's like a climax. It's like a battle scene. So,
Yeah.
for my money, I think that the idea of you know, homaging something like that is fine. But what you want to do, again, not to recite the old idiom, but it all comes down to story. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I know you look at Mario Brothers, right? Like, I will admit I own the DVD.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that kind of loves that movie as much of a train wreck as it is, but that's not how I would make a Mario Brothers movie. But
Of course.
to make a Mario Brothers movie seems ridiculous. But if you look at some of the children's fantasy movies that are out there right now, it's much less ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, it's a question of execution, and I just think that it's always possible. It's just that people have these terrible stigmas of things based on what other people. I don't know. I just think that it's doable, and no one's figured out how to do it yet.
Yeah, I
If
agree with that.
Makes sense.
So I think what needs to happen is we need to collaborate and create
Yeah.
a couple of video game movies.
The dream lives.
Yeah.
I don't know which I'd do. I've often thought about like what movie would I want to see. I think honestly, BioShock would be an amazing movie. It really would be.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many. I mean, clearly, I want to see a Mass Effect movie because I'm also a huge sci-fi nerd.
Right. I mean, the thing about Mass Effect is I think it would be a really good TV show because there's so much. Like, if you really wanted to try to capture the experience of playing, like, even one of the games,
Yeah.
like, just all the side missions, just the whole idea of, like, I think they should make a Mass Effect 2 movie if they do any of them.
Yeah.
Because the idea of building a team to go on a suicide mission is a great setup. Mm-hmm. So, like, you go across the galaxy, you know, you picking up all your members to then go on this epic mission. Like, you already have this goal
Yeah.
in mind.
Oh yeah. Would you ever? I told you I think they're doing it now, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
my dream of if I could ever adapt obscure comic property, the one I wanted to do. It's the Strike Force Morituri. Did I ever tell you about that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. If you ever get to read it.
Yeah,
So-
just because someone's doing it now doesn't mean they're going to do it well or it's ever going to actually come out. So
I know. But I do have faith in Marvel, so
yeah.
there's a chance.
Really? What have they done? I haven't heard of them.
See, there's an. I don't want to go on all these movies.
Yeah, dude, we can go on as many tangents as you want. Worst case is I'll cut it out.
Yeah, right. It's Marvel has done such a brilliant job of executing their product, and I know all the complaints. I hear all the complaints. I know that there's kind of a uniform look to them, and yada yada yada. But first of all, do you know how hard that is to do? And then secondly, to do it on such a scale where like you accept such a level of quality from their movies to the point where the only other thing I can relate that to in recent memory is Pixar before Pixar started tanking.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I feel like people don't give them enough credit for executing this grand scheme as well as they're doing it. Like the initial idea of doing this interconnected movie thing obviously harkens back to the old Universal movies. You know, they did it with Frankenstein and
the monsters.
the monster movies and everything.
Yeah.
So it's not a completely original idea, but to do it with these properties was so mind blowing, and to do it in the style that they're doing it, which is, if you think about it, I mean, I'm still shocked that they went to do it. It's so funny that everyone is just ripping them off left and right now.
Yeah.
To the point where like, you know, can we have a Power Rangers universe? And I'm like, just make the movies. But anyway, they've managed to navigate the pitfalls so well to the point where the only one I have just not liked, I think, was actually, that's not even true. It's not that I didn't like it; it's just boring. I just didn't love Thor 2. Iron Man 2 was kind of obviously a disaster as well for a variety of reasons. But my point is like it's been since 2008 now. You know what I mean? And to still be going so strong and building interest blows my mind. And that's a comic book. You know what I mean? And not only is it based on a comic book, but you know, Richard Donner adapted Superman, but did it as this real world movie. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
even although
It was a little bit of fantasy just because
yeah,
it was supposed to be a period piece, but
right.
Yeah.
But even like look at Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, right? Which I still love. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, his whole mantra over and over again was basing it in reality, basing it in the real world. Where you look back on it now and you're like, well, not really. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but
I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. It's the goal.
Right.
It's supposed to be that tone. And it's just funny that Marvel has literally executed the comic books. Like the
Yeah.
tone and everything is exactly what's been written. Although a lot has been written, obviously, for decades. So my point, bringing it back to the video game thing, was that you could have said in 1997 or whenever Spawn was coming out, right? You could have said, you can't hand me a comic book and put that on screen and it will work. People would have been like, no, comic books are for kids, it's stupid, yada, yada, yada.
yeah.
They made it work because they figured out why it translates or what part of it translates. And in the same fashion, I just feel like, if you have some middle-aged dude who watches his kids play Call of Duty when he comes home every night thinking, working for a studio and saying, oh, we can't adapt video games, well, then he doesn't have the first-hand experience because there are the stories within these games, especially because they hire film industry people
To write
and execute and DP these games and stuff. So I just think it's a terrible argument. I just think that it's an easy argument to make until someone comes along and does it right, and then everyone has to put their tails between their legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about it too. I mean, obviously, I think comic books probably went through that same problem with everybody saying, "Oh, you can't do comic books and stuff," and they had to go through that for decades before somebody got it right. They had to go through the Captain America live action show and even the Spider-Man live action show, like all these sort of bad iterations of that for decades before they got it right. So hopefully it won't take that long for somebody to break through in the video game area. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and another thing I thought of when you were talking about how they hire movie guys to write stuff, did you know that David Cross and Brian Posehn and a couple other guys went and did Punch Up on Destiny?
Really?
Yeah, my guess is, though, this was the Destiny that Joe Stanton wrote before he left, and they gutted the story out of that.
Really?
I don't know if you've been listening. I talked for a long time, a couple podcasts, about the story that was originally in Destiny.
Actually, I'm curious. Can you sum it up in three sentences? Or?
Well, basically, we sort of talked about it for a second. I think I sent you an email, or we talked about it. Yeah. But Joseph Staten, the guy that wrote all of the Halo games and that created the Destiny universe and wrote the story and all this stuff, he left a year before it came out. He left last fall. Or, I'm sorry, fall before it came out. Yeah. And they completely got rid of his story. And we can talk about Destiny if you want.
Well, we can talk about it off the air, too. I know you've...
the story there was going to be... I don't know if you've gotten to the end. It's a really long, interesting...
I haven't.
But basically, it's exactly what you would think it would be. It's a good, long, epic space opera, and with a bunch of interesting characters, a bunch of interesting stuff. And so after he left, his name's not... He's not even credited as a writer on the game.
Yikes.
So that means that they had to have gotten rid of almost everything. I mean, even if you go back and look at the demos, the gameplay demos they released, a lot of those levels and stuff are in the game, but none of the dialogue, none of the actual story. They completely just ripped it out. Yeah. And I guess they gave 4 months before the game came out, they hired a writer and gave him the original script, and he had to write all those stupid grimoire cards that you pick up now and then.
Oh, really?
And so if you go and you have to go online, you have to leave the game, you have to go on your computer, and you can go read the cards, and those kind of piece together the actual story of the game.
I have not done that once.
Well, why would you?
Yeah.
But anyway, so when I heard that David Cross and Posehn and stuff did some punch up on the dialogue, the game used to be funny, the ghost character used to be comical. Now he's just flat and boring. You can tell that Dinklage hates everything that he's saying. Yeah. And that comes through. And I guess that was somebody else that used to work in the studio came out and said too, yeah, they did another recording session a couple months before the game came out to redo all the dialogue, and it was like a disaster.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone needs to make that movie.
Yeah.
Not Destiny, the behind the scenes.
Right. And and they fired Marty O'Donnell and stuff too.
Yeah,
and they took his game they took the song that he did with Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And it only plays during the credits that you have to trigger on your own. You have to go into the menus and then go to the credits, and then it's like the third song in the credits.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Bad decisions, guys. Bad decisions.
Well, that's what it was. Fucking Activision. They thought like Microsoft was bad, but Activision is far worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Anyways, that's a story for another podcast.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where that goes. What happens?
But also, I mean, going back to remakes, did you hear that they're gonna do a current gen version of the first two Batman games?
Wait, no.
Yeah, it's just a rumor right now, but the theory is that they're going to redo Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and it's going to come out this Christmas.
Dude, I will literally. I will literally buy that.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to speak in hyperbole, so I will.
Yeah.
I will 100% literally buy that. I'm glad you brought that up because that's probably, as we mentioned, the game I'm anticipating most because. Yeah. It's all of my nerdy things combined into one beautiful nerdy thing.
Yeah, I mean, and they did it so well. I just love the visual look of that game. Every character design is like perfect, yeah. I think. And the reason that's so successful, and even like the one spin-off they did with another studio that was the prequel wasn't as great, was because the guy that got to write it was the guy that writes Batman.
Yeah, dude, Bruce Timm and I mean, you know what? It's funny you bring this up too because I was just talking about how. I was literally just having this conversation. So, you know how Joss Whedon got the Marvel job being like the godfather to the cinematic universe?
Yeah.
That was a great idea. He was perfect. I mean, to be honest, the reason Marvel movies are the way they are now, I think, is because of probably him and then to a degree Kevin Feige. Yeah. But that was such a great, brilliant appointment. You know what I mean? That being said, the fact that every other stupid sect that's following the lead has to do that. Like, I don't think that Zack Snyder is the guy to lead the DC. Right. I don't think that Joss Whedon had the credentials. He had a history with these characters. He'd written for comics before, written for Marvel. He had pitched X-Men and Batman and all these things to studios. Like, that made a lot of sense, and he's the right guy for the job. But just to hand it away seems weird. But what was my point? What were we just talking about?
About the anticipation of the new Batman, maybe?
That's what I was going to say. Is that what always annoyed me is if you're going to give a Godfather role to somebody for the DC cinematic universe, whatever you want to call it, give it to Bruce Timm, you know what I mean?
Right?
Give it to the guy that's been doing it for 20 years. Give it to the guy that's already done Justice League and already done it well and done it dark and done it everything that DC Warner Brothers wanted to be. I just feel
and of course he brought in the voice actors from the animated series, which was another like genius move. I mean, it seems like of course, but you'll be surprised how often people don't do that.
No, I think it's a brilliant, especially because they got to do such an adult story with these new ones, with the games and everything. I mean,
and the newest one is rated M, right?
I did not know that.
The first two were only rated teen, which I was actually kind of surprised about when I heard about. But I guess this one is they said they wanted to tell a very specific story, and the censors came back to them and were like, "Hey, this is rated M. These are the things you have to cut if you want to go back down to teen." And they're like, "No, we're not going to cut that stuff. It's too important to the story."
That's so funny.
So I'm really excited for what it's going to be.
I even like the prequel. I like the
I haven't played it. I own it, but I haven't even started it.
Really? You should.
Just because I heard there was like that glitch that you could lose all your game save progress, and the company that made it was like, no, we're not going to patch that. We're not going to fix that. We're just going to make DLC instead.
What?
And that whole mentality just made me not want to play the game.
That never happened to me. If that happened to me, I would have murdered everybody that I know.
Yeah.
And that is a confession, Robert Durst style.
But even for that one, like I said, they didn't have the. Tim didn't write it, and also they didn't have the same voice actor. They didn't have Kevin Conley do Batman.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, because we wanted to have a younger guy. But it was like, no, he can do younger. He can do everything.
Yeah, that was a dumb decision. Again, look, the game is definitely not the best of the series. I'm just saying that it was still fun. I still enjoyed it.
It was still like a Batman game.
Yeah, but that being said, I literally cannot wait for this new one. I'm using literally very liberally tonight, but
literally
cannot wait.
You heard it got delayed again, right?
like June 23rd or something.
Yeah, just 3 weeks, but still. I mean, this game was supposed to come out in October.
Yeah.
I'm totally glad that it's not coming out before it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because this has sort of been the generation of broken games.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want it so badly right now.
I know. I'm ready for like I'm ready for the games to start really wowing me like next gen games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like this might be one that does. So.
Did you ever play all the way through BioShock Infinite?
I did.
Did you play the DLC?
I don't believe so. I don't. To be honest, I don't remember. It's been a
It's
bit.
just kind of a side note. The where you go back to Rapture and it's the whole.
Wait, maybe I did.
There's 2 parts to it, and it's really long. The first one I think you play as Booker, and the second one you play as Elizabeth.
Maybe I didn't actually.
You would know if you did. I think.
Man, it's been a while. I remember.
You need to play that DLC.
Yeah. It's just such a bummer that the Xbox isn't backwards compatible. I can't tell you.
I know.
It kills me because I don't have my Xbox accessible anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not that I couldn't. Not that I couldn't set it up, but it's just one of those things where I don't understand the logic. Greed.
So, yeah, right. Well, I mean, because they wanted to make a big step forward as far as the technology they were using.
Yeah.
So instead of it used to be PowerPC based, the structure. Now it's something else. I forget what it's called. But it's literally a different, infrastructure.
Right.
That's why they're just remaking games, because they basically just have to put them in a machine and code them into something else.
Right. Well, I'm all for. I actually really enjoy the. It's weird. You wouldn't think that it'd be like a movie where you're gonna go back and just casually watch it. But for example, case in point, not because it's the greatest game of all time, even though I really enjoy it. I have to, for posterity, have the Ghostbusters game. Because it's Ghostbusters 3, you know what I mean? Because it's the closest I'll ever get.
Yeah.
And so, like, I would not sell my Xbox 360 now, even if someone gave me $800 for it, just because I need to have a way to access that game, Right. And so that's what I get bummed about, because it would be great to, just give me the same exact game, give it to me as a download, that's fine, just let me have access to it, because the idea of that stuff vanishing forever is a bummer.
Right, totally. Prepare yourself for a perfect transition. Because one, transitions always work best when you point them out ahead of time.
Like in Highlander.
And 2, this is something you said like 5 minutes ago now, so it's not super great.
Oh, great.
But you said that how Ghostbusters sold cartoons, that was one of the things they did.
Yeah.
Do you know who was an animator for the real Ghostbusters?
No.
John Tobias, who co-created Mortal Kombat with Ed
You're
Boon.
kidding me!
No. So that transitions me into talking about the new Mortal Kombat game.
The Cybot of Noob Cybot.
Exactly, and last episode I was telling Phil about that, and he thought I was crazy. He thought I was a big old nerd for knowing that.
That's insane, man.
Anyways, God, I don't know how to come at this, but remember when we saw Ed Boon on a plane?
I do remember that. Wait, that was going to Seattle, wasn't it?
No, I don't. I thought it might have been, because that would have been great. I thought it was when we came back from Orlando.
Oh, you might be right. By the way, I just got so excited about that my voice pinched higher than I think it's ever pinched.
Yeah.
But I totally forgot about that.
First of all, we can talk about that entire trip of being in Orlando just from the video game standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, on that trip, we got back on the plane. He was in first class, so we walked by him, and we both saw him.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, like, I understand that our Venn diagrams of nerdiness overlap a lot. But I wasn't sure if you knew who he was. Like, that was one of those things that we never really talked about.
That's exposing myself on a new level. That's
right.
Yeah. That's some, like, I read the game magazines in the early 90s.
Like Game Informer and all that stuff.
Game Informer, Game Pro.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously he has a very distinct face.
Yes.
So he's hard to miss. But like we were both just like wide-eyed, mouth agape. Like, is that like we kind of said, is that him? But we both knew that was him. But we were the whole plane ride. We were sitting there like, should we go say something?
And I promise you, no one has ever said anything to that guy on a plane.
Yeah.
That would have definitely been the one time.
Yeah, and this was like he's sort of become the face of the franchise the last couple of years. But this was like 10 years ago. I'm sure nobody knew who he was.
I should have popped up behind him in first class and gone toasty.
Yeah. Also, I didn't realize he did the voice of Scorpion in the movies.
Did he really? That's
Yeah,
funny.
not that they were super great, but that was just a.
All W.S. Anderson.
But anyways, I am like super excited for the new game.
Yeah.
Because Mortal Kombat has always been one of those franchises that I've been super into, just mainly because of nostalgia reasons, just because I was a little kid, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I really like the 2011 one they did.
It was a lot of fun, dude. I really liked it. This is the first one I'm gonna buy opening day. You know, by day one. I haven't bought the. I think. No. I even got that used. Well, anyway, point is, it's been years since I've been excited to aggressively go out and buy a fighting game, and this is the one.
I'm glad you're getting a day one because I am too.
Yes.
And we need to play a game together. Have you heard about the DLC announcements, the crazy characters they have in it?
We got Predator, Freddy Krueger.
Jason, yeah.
Jason. Oh, sorry, Jason. That's what I meant.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger was in the last game.
The last one, yeah. Who else?
And then also other characters from the game. So there's Tremor, which is the brown ninja that was only in Mortal Kombat Special Forces for PlayStation.
Right.
Which I might have bought just... I basically bought a PlayStation just to play that game.
Is that the Jackson Sonya one? Or
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I had both of the spin-off, like, whatever the games were, they were different formats. I remember playing them and being like, weird.
Yeah, this is super weird. But Tremor, who's the brown guy that has like control of like Earth.
Right.
And then Tanya, who was in Mortal Kombat 4. This is, you know how like the last game was basically a remake of the first three games, like a reimagining. This is kind of like a remake of 4.
That's kind of cool.
So like Chinook's the bad guy. A lot of the returning characters are there, and then like Tanya was one of the characters that were introduced in Mortal Kombat 4 that people really liked. Yeah, and so she's one of the DLC characters.
It's so funny. So just real quickly, there's something I still love the new games. I'm actually, like I said, I'm very excited for them. There's something about that Mortal Kombat has never been able to reclaim for me since 3, since it's been like the live action. I know that's ridiculous because you can't make a photoreal live action game anymore, but there was something about that like had this magic wonder that just the games as they are today just don't have for me. And again, obviously, what are you gonna do? But part of what I really liked about it, which I wish they'd go back to a little bit, I love just the color palette swap. I know that's so cheap. It's so cheap and it's so stupid, and you can't. But like they get so intricate with their designs sometimes that the characters kind of become vague to me. I love like a green version of Scorpion. You know what I mean? Like it was just so. It was so simple, and yet I loved it to the point where somewhere out there are some embarrassing movies that we made in high school or in middle school of me playing Scorpion. And at one point, I made my own Scorpion outfit, and it was dope. But I actually bought, I think it was, I want to say it was like purple cloth as well, because I was creating my own color swap character at that point.
Yeah. I mean, this is stupid. I have so much knowledge about Mortal Kombat that I didn't even realize I had.
No, believe.
And not just like, hey, I can do Cyrax's like fatality.
Yeah.
Like the back of my hand, but.
Don't worry, dude. You were in very, very, very sad company. So.
Yeah.
But I am very excited for the new one. I think it's gonna be fun. I literally, again, why am I saying it so much today? I don't know. I think it's a placeholder. But I, for years, was like, please just give me downloadable or new Killer Instinct, and I still haven't bought it. I still haven't done it, which is so stupid because all I want is the original. I just want to, and I could have it right now, but for whatever reason, I just keep hesitating buying it.
Yeah, every couple of months when I think about it again, I go back to my N64 and put that cartridges and see if it works.
Yeah.
Because, for the listeners that don't know, like, I still have my N64 and I have the Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I have the cartridge, but it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it sort of turns on a little bit, but then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I could just buy they re-released it for Xbox One.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I'm going to play on the N64.
Well, the Xbox One, like the big package, comes with the original and 2?
Yeah.
Damn, I should just buy it right now.
I played the shit out of the remake, the one that came out launched for Xbox One.
Yeah.
I actually got it for free because they sent out a bunch of codes to some random people.
Oh, jealous.
So I never actually had to pay for it. But I would have bought it anyways. But I played I got all the achievements for that game, which took a very long time. Like you have to win a whole bunch of online matches. You have to get a whole bunch of badges and stuff.
Yeah.
But I really liked that. But then the problem was Amazon bought the game company that made that. So then season 2, which has just come out, which is still currently coming out, was made by a completely different game studio. And to make it their own thing, they went in and completely gutted and re-innovated the fighting system.
Really?
Which kind of ruined it for me. I haven't been playing season 2 because it doesn't feel like the same game. Not only do I really not like the characters they're coming out with, but I don't like the way that it plays anymore.
Right. Damn, that sucks. I mean, I really only want the originals.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you can get Killer Instinct Classic 1 and 2 are both available for download on Xbox.
Yeah. I don't know why I won't. I never make the plunge.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew where I used to play that game all the time. In Disney World.
Yeah, that's
on Main Street, all the way at the end of the block on the left on the corner, there was like Casey's Hot Dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they had a Killer Instinct console in there.
That's amazing.
They didn't have anywhere on Disney property. They didn't have Mortal Kombat because that was a known bad thing. All parents knew about Mortal Kombat in the 90s.
Right.
But for whatever reason,
it's so
Killer
funny.
Instinct snuck by, and it's in the most
it's
wholesome area of Disney World on Main Street, right where the barbershop quartet is, and there's a player piano. The guy plays the entertainer all the time.
Oh, Billy Joel. Or
so it's just it's really funny that it was there, and I was found this magical corner where I could play Killer Instinct.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's because it's a cartoon. If it were the live action version,
maybe. But like I said, it's because parents didn't know about it too.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it definitely didn't cause this stir. I guess that.
Yeah.
That's
the whole ratings board was created just because of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. It's so funny how this is what I'm. Again, not to go back to the movies thing, but it's just the similarities between video games and movies and comic books and stuff is so the movies went through the self rating thing the same way. You know what I mean? And it's just
right.
You think they've learned from each other. My favorite Disney story, though, you might have a better perspective of this for obvious reasons, since we're talking Disney World.
Yeah,
is for sure playing Halo 2. I was exhausted. If you recall, we had a long day, and all we had to eat, I think, at that moment were chocolate donuts.
Yeah, we had Edmonds. We had a box of Edmonds, chocolate, covered donuts, which we ate in about 24 hours.
Well, yeah, because you got to eat them. They go bad. They go bad. Anyway, I could feel myself getting tired.
But just real quick. So for that trip, of course, I brought my 360.
Right.
Because I couldn't go 24 hours then without playing at least a game, and we were sharing a room together. So I'm he has to play with me. He's forced to play games with me.
I have to do it
if I bring a 360.
Got to do it.
Yeah.
And then so then we were playing. But the thing is, this is after a long day of magic.
You don't have to justify it that
way. Oh, no.
It's understandable.
I'm not justifying. I just don't want people thinking we were not in Disney World. We were clearly in Disney World. Yeah. But, so anyway, we ate a bunch of donuts. We were overstuffed and tired. We started playing. And we're split screening. So you got your two guns pointing forward. And then, I guess maybe you should explain this since it's all.
Yeah, so we're playing through Halo 2. We're getting towards the end of the game. I'm talking to you back and forth here and there. And we're about to go into this big semi-boss encounter. And I look over at your character, and your character slowly just dips his head. I can see it on the bottom of the screen, and I'm physically looking at your character on my screen.
Yeah.
So I just see the head slowly tilt down to the ground, and I look over to you, and you've fallen asleep.
Yeah.
And the process of you falling asleep made you sort of relax your hands and press down.
Yeah.
Which allowed your character, as you fell asleep in real life, your character fell asleep. And it was fantastic.
If that's not the future of interactive gaming, I don't know what is. It was hilarious. I mean,
sorry.
No, that's fine.
And I ended up going and beating the game while you were sleeping. So I don't even know if you've ever played the end of Halo 2.
I did. I've played it many times. In fact, I just played it with the big Master Chief collection.
Yeah, what'd you think of the remake of it?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, I again, I'm not as well versed as you are, but I had fun, man. I just spent a week after work, sitting in front of this TV, cruising through all 4 games like they were one big game, which was awesome.
Yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think they spend as much time and effort remastering the graphic engine of 2 as they did with 1.
Yeah.
Like 1, there's a huge difference, and they made the world look great, and the lighting's really good.
Yeah.
I feel like 2, they kind of just sort of half-assed. But, I mean, 343 didn't do this, Blur Studios did. But the cinematics, the CG cinematics were so great.
Yeah, they were so good. The funny thing is, too, because as you know, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
As you know, I played the first level and a half of Halo before I realized the stupid select button changed the graphics. So I was looking at it, I was like, I feel like they could have done better with this. It doesn't look that good. and then the second I accidentally hit the select button, I was like, son of a... So I actually have to go back now and replay it. But it's also funny because you start to get spoiled by the process to the point where you get to like Halo 3 and 4 and you're like, why didn't they change these two? And I mean, they look great. They're fine. But it's just funny that I was so into newness.
Right.
But,
well, we got to wait 2 years for them to redo Halo 3.
Yeah.
I
also found myself really wanting Reach and everything. I was like, I wish they just did all the Halo universe.
Well, they're doing ODST now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of the whole multiplayer issue.
Mm.
They said as an apology, they're gonna re-release as part of that package. They're gonna give you ODST. They're gonna remaster ODST. Actually, they're just going to make it 1080, 60 frames a second. They're not actually going to touch it.
Yeah.
And then they're going to they're remaking another map from Halo 2.
Oh, cool.
So if you have the Master Chief Collection and you played during that first couple months that it came out,
yeah,
they're going to give it to you for free. But they just started working on it like last month, so they're not too far along.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I haven't played multiplayer at all yet. I just, my internet is terrible where I have it now. So I'm hoping to bump it up soon, but whenever I try to do stuff like that, it just crashes.
Yeah.
But I gotta get on it. Here's a question I have for you. It seems like something that I should listen to a podcast to find out. So the Xbox Live situation for the One, is it truly only $40 now? And if you spend the $40, what are the benefits beyond just the cheap and free games?
What's the benefit of having gold?
Like for example, yeah, I'm sorry. So for example, if I don't have gold, can I still multiplayer right now?
Usually not.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have the social aspects of it, like you still got a friends list, you can still message, you can still chat and all that stuff.
Right.
But most multiplayer games, like if you wanted to go and play Call of Duty, it won't let you do it.
Gotcha.
So
I do need to renew my gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go online and find them for super cheap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll send you a couple links after this if you want.
Yeah.
But you can find them for like at least half off usually.
Cool.
And they every once in a while they'll do like a deal on it. So you can buy sometimes I do this. I'll buy 2 or 3 years in one sitting because it'll come out to basically the same price as 1 year.
Yeah.
And then I just put it on my account, and then it just automatically goes on there, so I don't even have to worry about it because they send you an email and a message when your thing's gonna be renewed.
Right.
But yeah, and I mean the free games are pretty great.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty. To be honest, the second mine expired in January, and I just haven't renewed it yet. And it's just because it hasn't been on my brain. But the second they give away Killer Instinct or something.
Right. No, I mean, certainly if you don't need it, don't do it right now. But whenever you decide, hey, I want to go on and play multiplayer, or hey, I want to go, do something else, then you should do it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I got a multiplayer when Mortal Kombat comes out, right? So.
Yeah. We need to play more games together.
I know.
It's been a long time.
It's been a ridiculously long time. Actually, you might be good for this. I was going to say, the only time I get to play, really, is at 1 in the morning my time. So it's
I'm perfect for that, dude.
Yeah, I know. I realize as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh, right.
Well, yeah, we played a handful of Destiny together when it first came out.
That's the last time I played multiplayer. I haven't had it.
I mean, that was a fun experience, too. I saved the video of you. One of the first times we were playing, we were just on a cliff messing around. And you just start doing your little dance. You had a little male awoken, so he had a little jig he was doing.
Yeah.
Where he'd click his heels at the end and stuff.
Yeah.
And for absolutely no reason, then you just turned and jumped off. You took a bow, and then you turned and jumped off the cliff. And it was, I mean, it's stupid, but I think it's the funniest thing. I tried to show a couple people that video, and they just didn't care. But for whatever reason, I thought it was the funniest thing.
Well, that's on them. I don't know why. They probably also love W.S. Anderson movies.
Yeah.
What's the deal with the new Final Fantasy game? Let me ask you that. Is it stupid? Is it
I don't know. I heard so the demo's out right now, right?
right? But isn't it not? It's not next.
It's
gen,
not the
right?
same thing at all.
Yeah. All right.
But I heard it's fun. So my co-host Phil is super into Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
and he could give you a better breakdown of how and why it's different.
Damn it, Phil.
But I heard he said he's not going to get it,
He's not gonna. Oh wow.
and he's currently playing through all of the Final Fantasies.
Yeah, it's funny because I loved from 7 to 9 basically. That was my heyday. Like 7, 8, and 9 were my favorites. I loved them. I loved them top to bottom. Like the gardens in 8 were so amazing. You at that point you'd be hard pressed to get me to play anything else. And then for whatever reason when they switched the systems or whatever, I don't know. I just again, for me, it lost some of the magic. Not that they're not good. I fell out of it. Oh, you know what it was too? We've talked about this, but it became like an MMO for a while, right? Didn't it? Like
Yeah.
it was all online, and I don't do that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, for whatever reason, I lost.
I did want to talk about like we kind of had we've been in a couple rock bands together.
Yeah, we have.
We were in that. We were in the one with Lauren as our singer that we played pretty consistently.
Yeah.
We created our characters. We spent time. We made like a logo and all this stuff.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I think you and I were switching off between guitar and bass.
As we do.
Sometimes we would play drums, but where I was, it was kind of hard to do the drums.
Yeah.
And then my younger sister was our singer for the band. And we had a pretty consistent, like we would meet up, like, pretty consistently to play. And we played through
To gig.
Yeah, we had plenty of gigs. We planned gigs and stuff. I even made I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I bought merchandise for our band. I don't know if you remember that. I got a couple T-shirts and bumper stickers and stuff.
Really?
And you could get action figures based on your character, and I got Lauren an action figure of her singer, the one she created, and even had her custom microphone and everything.
Wait, what were we called? Do you remember?
Oh God.
I know it was good.
Yeah.
Well, if you think of it, let me know.
But yeah, and like you played with us right when we used the fog machine.
Oh yeah, which is by the way,
yeah,
so ridiculous.
Yeah, it's super ridiculous, and every time I tell somebody that, they just roll their eyes at me.
Yeah.
But as somebody that can attest firsthand to how fun it was to turn off the lights, turn on the fog machine, which also had like a light show attached to it. It had a bunch of different flashing, different colored lights, and just playing like No Doubt.
It was dope until the moment the song ended and you were left.
You looked around the room and realized where you were.
You really contemplated your life. You were like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing." All right. Well, next song.
Yeah, and I remember too when they came out with a specialized bass for Rock Band, which had the two like strum buttons where you could use two fingers and stuff. Yeah. And I was like asking you, I was like, "Hey, should I get this?" Because this is when we were pretty deep into Rock Band.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, I don't really see the point of having a bass on its own, but if anybody's going to get use out of it, it would be you.
It would be you. I was right. I think. Yeah. That's. I mean, look, you gotta know what you're doing. You can't just buy that bass,
Right. But yeah, I mean, the design for all the Beatles Rock Band instruments were so great.
Yeah.
So perfect, I thought. And then the day Beatles Rock Band came out.
Oh, that was the best day of my life.
Yeah, we played the entire game start to finish as a band. So at the time when Beatles Rock Band came out, I was living with you.
Right.
And you already sort of had a band going with some of your roommates because Charles is super great on the drums. So I remember like we went out as a group. We went to like GameStop and we got Beatles Rock Band.
Brought it home.
I think we went to Nick's first because we're gonna play this from start to finish.
Yeah.
And so after getting breakfast, we're like, okay. We had our band set up. We all got ready. We tuned our instruments, and we just sat there and played through the entire catalog. We played through. It was great that game sort of had a story too.
It was. Oh, that game was so good. It was everything I wanted from a Rock Band game because it had the visuals, it had the eras, it had. It was great. It had
like little cutscenes of us like traveling to go play the Ed Sullivan Show and like little montages, and then it was like a little music video for a Yellow Submarine and stuff.
Well, I mean, look, you're not going to find a bigger Beatles nerd than me, and that game was everything. I'm just how they stopped releasing albums will never. I mean, I understand the logistics of it, but it's so depressing. The opportunities that they had, like we never got to the White Album. You know what I mean? To do that, it's just so depressing.
Yeah, I mean, And what do you think of like Rock Band's coming back now? They announced another, not Rock Band 4, it's just called Rock Band at this point, but they're going to release a Rock Band this year. What do you think about that?
I mean, I've found myself with too much time lately, so it's good.
Really?
It's good to have an opportunity to just have none. So
yeah,
that's terrible news. It's great news because it's going to be a wonderful game, and I'm very excited to play. It's terrible news because I'm going to lose friendships. Relationships are over. I mean, I won't eat. I can tell you that much.
Well, so Phil and I have talked about it plenty of times on this podcast, but our feelings about sort of the music genre wasn't just that Activision flooded the market and sort of killed itself.
Yeah.
But I think for us, the reason that it died off was just like, okay, it was the perfect party game. It's the perfect college game.
Yeah.
So like once you move on from either being in a dorm or having roommates, it's hard to
play it. Yeah, it's not a single person player. That's why I'm refusing to grow up. That's why I'm going to do my best to find some roommates and waste my time.
Hey man, if you wanna regress back and just get a couple male roommates and we can just so we can play a Rock Band, I'm totally up for that.
Look, I'm so into it. You have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm the one you got to convince though.
I know.
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. Look, if I could just not have a job and not do anything and just play video games. Wait a minute. Wait a
second.
Hold on. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I don't know how I did it, but when I was in college and I was still, basically working full time, I feel like I played more video games then than I do now. Like I can only get in like an hour or two a day for whatever reason, and I really probably could play 8 hours a day if I wanted to, but for whatever reason I have so many other things to do.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, a full-time college student, I was basically full-time working, and I would still, it was because I didn't sleep.
Oh yeah.
But I played so much Halo 2 back then.
What's great though is that I vaguely once read the headline of an article that said video games good for, and I stopped there and that's all I know. So now in my mind it's like exercise. I'm like, well, I got to do my brain exercises tonight.
Well,
so.
no, it does say it improves memory and reaction time and critical thinking and like problem solving, all these important things that I use to justify why I spend my life playing video games.
Those reaction time, processing time, those are all things that I need. Me brain food good. Yeah, so hey, look, I'm in. Not that I needed to be convinced.
Right.
You know? I will say this. Since we already talked about Disney World, the other Disney World story we got to mention.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is the fact that we played the endless set list, but for a week. Just had it paused. I guess.
So I think it was the first. It was the second one. It was. I don't even remember which game it was at this point.
I think it was the second one, right?
Yeah, I think it was Rock Band 2, and one of the features and one of the achievements for it is there's a thing called the endless set list, which is every song in the game in one go, in one long set list.
And you had all the downloadable content.
Yeah, and so the idea is you're supposed to play it through probably in one sitting. But you can't save your progress, you can't turn off your console, you can't quit the game, you can't do anything else until you do the entire set list, which I think is over 9 hours long in Rock Band 2. And so one of the other ventures that we did on this trip was we played the entire endless set list. But every day it was like when we weren't there playing the endless set list, like that was all that was on my mind because we just had an Xbox 360 sitting in a Disney World hotel room.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, is it just going to die on its own? Is the game going to freeze? Is the cleaning person going to turn it off? Are they going to flip a light switch and it's going to explode? Like I didn't know what was going to happen.
So much could go wrong.
Yeah, and there would be times too. I remember once I had to like take a break to ice my wrist because we had been playing for so long, and I just couldn't do it. Like after a whole day of like being in Disney World, then trying to play like 3 hours a day of like endless set list, was crazy. But we did it. We did the whole thing.
The whole thing. I think that achievement, was I logged in for that? Did I get the achievement too or no?
Okay. Yes, you were logged in for it. And that was another thing, too. Obviously, we couldn't connect to Xbox Live while we were there, but I had already downloaded your profile ahead of time.
Smart.
So we were both getting the achievements for all that stuff.
Smart.
But that was also another thing, whereas until I connected it to Xbox Live again,
yes.
Before we got back to LA and I connected to Xbox Live, all of that was like up in the air. So if anything happened to the console, if whatever it didn't sync right, or if it like merged with the other profile, we might have not gotten those achievements.
Yeah.
But it did finally work out for us. But that was another like tension moment. Like I lost 10 years of my life just on that one achievement.
Yeah. What's a big one? The only other one that I can remember being that much of an undertaking was, what's it called? Dead Rising or whatever, the murdering
like
500,000 zombies. Man.
Have you played the Dead Rising 3?
I haven't yet. No, I hear it's cool though, right?
Yeah, it's cool. It's a little bit different visually, but it's still Dead Rising. It's still a lot of fun. If you have an Xbox One, I would say you definitely should get that game.
Well, that's a good way to kind of maybe bring this to a close. Is to tell me what I should be focusing on, because as it is now, I am very much looking forward to Batman, obviously. And
of course. What do you think of like the whole Batmobile thing?
I think it's cool. I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, all the gameplay for the Batmobile looks really cool. It's cool, the very seamless, like, you can call it whenever you want. You can hop in it and out of it. You can have it roam around on its own. The one thing I will say, though, is it sort of brings the whole idea of Batman not killing somebody. It's a little bit harder to believe that when he's shooting rockets out of the Batmobile into tanks that are exploding, probably somebody's going to die.
Look, he'll blow up a wall. If that wall kills somebody, that's not on him, all right?
Did you yeah. Well, that's what I said too. If he happens to taser somebody and they trip and fall off a roof, that's on them.
Yeah.
Oh, did you see the 7-minute gameplay trailer they released when they announced that it was being delayed?
I didn't know. Wait,
so
did I maybe?
It's just 7 minutes. It just came out like yesterday or 2 days ago.
Then I haven't seen it yet.
So basically it's just 7 minutes from the game, and it's Batman. He goes down, like, he's, listening to people's conversations, then he beats up some guys. The combat in those games, I mean, it's been said before, but one of the reasons that's so great, that series is so great, is because they nailed the combat system.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a couple of buttons, but it's super intricate. Like, it's easy to play, hard to master.
Yeah, for sure. But when you get good at it, there's actually skill. It's like what I always wanted Assassin's Creed to feel like, but but better.
But yeah, you really do feel like Batman when you're taking on, like, you feel like, oh yeah, I could take on 7 guys at once.
Yeah, easily.
Like, it makes sense and it feels right, and like you get to use your gadgets, you get to flip over their head, you get to do all these fun things.
It's perfect. It's also such a big scale. Like, the fact that you could be fighting on the ground and then with no load timers, you could just rocket into the sky and cruise across the city. It's just the biggest game. I love it.
But anyways, yeah, so Batman goes down, he beats up some guys, and then he, after he saves this guy that they're trying to kill, this truck comes out of nowhere and tries to smash into them.
Yeah.
So, like, there's this quick little cutscene where he, like, pulls the guy to safety, and then he calls in the Batmobile to go chase down this car.
Yeah.
So he's chasing him through the streets and stuff. He's trying to, do non-lethal takedowns. And finally, I think he just shoots a rocket into him, and the guy goes crashing into this wall.
Yeah.
And then he gets out of the car, and this is all gameplay. This is not, cutscenes or anything.
Yeah.
The guy is slowly crawling out of the car as he's bleeding.
Oh,
and
man.
Batman's walking towards him. The guy chose to do this. He could have ran. But the Batman was just slowly walking towards him.
Yeah.
And then, like, picks him up to interrogate him and stuff. And it's just so good and so cool.
That is so dope. I still think my favorite of the game so far is the first one, just because it was the isolated standalone story. It was such a brilliant idea. It was so well executed.
Yeah, and just the fact that Joker had control of the situation.
Yeah.
It made sense why you had to go through all these different bosses, like all the different villains, and the Scarecrow sequences were amazing.
They're amazing. That first game is perfect. But I love the way they expanded it. Like, it was really ballsy to do something different and expand it. So I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to be great. But also, I'm a huge loser, so maybe I'm not.
No, I don't think you're the only one that's excited for this game.
Yeah. What else should I be excited about? There's definitely, I know there's stuff coming.
I don't know. I mean,
I asked
this out this year.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever.
I
don't know. I want it to be good, but 343 has not really done anything that's
right. I mean, it'll be fun.
Tickled me fancy.
But yeah. Damn, that's a bummer.
There's gotta be I think it'll be fine. I'm definitely gonna buy it. Obviously.
I feel like I'm still waiting for. There's some great games out now and everything, but I feel like I'm waiting for the next big things,
Yeah, like I'm gonna get Mortal Kombat. I'm gonna get Batman for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any games that are like coming out between now and then. I know there's a bunch.
There's got to be like a big original IP coming out somewhere, right?
Right.
Like, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
why? Sorry.
did you play Alan Wake?
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, one, they might be remaking that game.
Really?
But their next game, Remedy Studios, is Quantum Break. I don't know if you've seen anything about that. It's another Alan Wake where they've announced it since the launch of the console, but it still keeps getting delayed.
Right.
But that's another thing. Like, yeah, you have like sort of like time powers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did Max Payne, so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
kind of created bullet time, so it's okay that
Yeah.
they're doing these sort of slow motion things. But it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I should have had a list of things. I mean, the game that I would tell you to get, the games that I think you should have,
Yeah.
you have most of them already. Like Alien Isolation was my favorite game of last year.
Dude, such a good game. I love that game.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you played it, you loved it, you know how great it
Oh,
is.
the first time that I've been wowed, I'm not saying like the system's not good, but like the first time that the system was like, holy shit, like the fire effects and stuff, the particle
Yeah,
effects.
and just the fog,
Dude,
like it's.
blew my mind. It was
Yeah, between I mean that and I think Destiny actually did it really well too.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
though it's more understated in Destiny, but like the first time that you really do see like 3D atmospheric fog that interacts with the light in the
Yeah.
world.
It
Usually,
looks-
like you see fog in the distance, and it's like one flat plane of fog.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're walking through it, it's all janky.
Yeah.
But like the fog effects are so good. Like the atmosphere. I mean, obviously they nailed like the lo-fi sci-fi technology aspect of it.
Dude, it's perfect. I love that game top to bottom. I thought it was
It's so good.
even to the point where like I was terrified of that alien, but then when I could finally fight him off a little bit, I was like, woo! It was awesome.
Yeah, there was that, but they do go through like ebb and flows of like, hey, like you're super weak, and then you sort of feel powerful for a while, and then they change it up,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you're like, okay, no, I can't deal with everything again.
Yeah.
But it was fun because I'm like the way I play like games like that is like I had scavenged to the T,
Yeah.
where I had I was like 2 levels in and I had maxed out all my items already, and I couldn't even pick up anything else.
That's
but I
so-
would never use anything. Like I
Right.
wouldn't use anything because I was like trying to get through the game like perfectly.
Yeah.
But it was fun. You know, there's that moment in the game where for a while you don't have to deal with the aliens.
Yeah, and then all of a
And you
sudden-
can just go apeshit on the droids, and
Yeah.
that was fun. Like
That was-
I had fun just throwing EMP bombs and stuff and setting them on fire to watch them melt as they
Yeah.
fell to the ground.
Well, dude, that's like I told you I made a mistake in playing that game at 1 a.m. when I was the only person up,
Oh, yeah.
and it got to the point where I was like, I literally have to stop doing this to myself. It's killing me.
Yeah. We did a 24-hour game marathon last October,
Yeah,
and we had one of our buddies over and we had him play it because he had never played it before.
yeah,
We were live streaming it, and so we were stupid because we didn't think about the live stream, but we turned off the lights.
Yeah.
And we have it. I don't know if you had the settings on the Kinect where if you make noise in the room, the alien can hear it. The alien and people can hear it.
I had to turn that off because it was scaring the
Right.
shit out of me.
Right. But we wanted to make it a cool experience for him.
Yeah, of course.
But not knowing it was awful for the people trying to watch because the video was black because we had turned the lights off in the room, and we were whispering to each other so it wasn't being picked up on the mic. But watching him play that game was so great. Like when the alien not first came out, but like when there's that sort of semi cutscene where you're at the computer and it comes out of the vent and on top of you.
Yeah.
And it just slowly sort of falls out of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, just he physically sat back in his chair and moved down and was like hiding from it.
That's the best. That was such a cool feature, by the way, too. I feel like that didn't get enough credit. The
Kinect stuff,
the
yeah.
motion
So like,
sensor, yeah.
there was the noise. So if you made noise in the room, and also you could use it as a head tilt where you could lean
in, yeah.
peek up. That was pretty cool too.
That was so cool. I was really
I mean, I ended up not using it, but
because it was scaring the shit out of me, though. That's my own.
Yeah.
fault. That evil's on me.
Just another thing I wanted to ask you too. You don't have to give a diplomatic answer. Why did you stop playing Destiny?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I'm still looking forward to finishing it. It's literally
Maybe it's
just
because you don't have gold. I don't even know if it'll let you play by yourself.
no. It lets me play.
Okay, cool.
I think. To be honest, I don't know if I've logged in since I lost gold, but no. Look, I love Destiny. I really enjoyed playing it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think part of it is just that something, either I go in phases where I play a lot and then I'll not play for a month and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I just I stopped playing because something else happened, and then all of a sudden a new game came out, and I think it might have even been Alien. I think I just got really into Alien.
Yeah.
Point is, I just have to go back. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm very excited to finish it, even though I feel like I'm pretty pretty deep in.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it,
Yeah.
at length. That's the thing. Like, I have a lot of criticisms about the game, obviously, but I still defend it to people.
Oh no, it's great. I loved it.
Because it's like the popular thing to do is like shit on it.
Nah.
But I think it does have its good points.
If I had one complaint, it would just be that I wish there was a big kind of a story going on, because I feel like
obviously, yeah. And that's, like I was saying, like there was a story. And like a
Yeah.
year and a half ago, there was a huge story. Like all the people, that was the thing. A lot of stories have come out of the people that beta tested it or like alpha tested it, both within the studio and a third party they hired.
Yeah.
So like people have gone through the entire game. So like we know what the game was supposed to be.
Right.
And not only did they gut the story, but they gutted out parts of the story. They cut it up, and that's what the DLC has been what was originally part of the story.
Yeah.
Which is super frustrating, but that's Activision.
It's frustrating because I feel like that's such a wasted opportunity. I mean, you have a whole, I don't know, whatever.
But when you finish the game, we should sit down and have a conversation in person. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the day that we had lunch at the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel and we just discussed BioShock?
Yeah.
Like a couple of idiots.
Yeah, like a couple of real cool idiots.
Yeah, like we were, sipping tea at a fancy hotel discussing the merits of plasmas.
That might literally be why they didn't make the movie. Like Gore Verbinski or someone from the studio might have been next to us and gone, you know what? No. But to be fair, plasmids, man.
Yeah.
You gotta be economical with your plasmids. When's the new BioShock happening? Anytime? You're supposed to know this
okay.
stuff.
So that studio that made Infinite, right? That Ken Levine was the head of and all that stuff, that went under.
Yes.
After BioShock Infinite, for whatever reason, it still wasn't successful enough, so they're out of business now. And he's working for another company, and he sort of has this other game in the works. It's not BioShock. I don't know. So if they do another BioShock, it will not probably be with him. And he's the one that did 1, and he did Infinite. He didn't do 2, another company did that, and, that happened, so.
Yeah.
But honestly, you gotta play the DLC for Infinite.
Yeah, I think I might have. I just don't remember. I guess I could check my achievements.
Yeah,
says the idiot.
But the whole thing with Infinite was I felt like the ending of the main game sort of set up Infinite sequels, but at the same time made it so they could never make another game, if that makes any sense. I mean, it's been a long time since this game comes out. I'm not going to really give any spoilers. But the thing is, you know what I mean? Like they opened it up so much that, like I said, they could have done any random side shoot sequel they wanted to. But at the same time, I feel like they made it so big and they sort of made it a complete story where it's like, I don't know how you can top this experience.
Right.
But
interesting. Well, I gotta go back. I gotta go back and play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or God, we gotta go into Peggle at some point, but I don't even want to. I don't want to bring it up because I'm afraid of what'll happen.
Yeah, I've kind of gotten some of my friends and people that were here for the live stream because we played Peggle 2 on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Like everyone was like, Psh, Peggle, I don't want to play Peggle. And now all of those
That's
people
what they
have gone
all
home
say.
and bought Peggle and have played it like crazy. But yeah, like they don't even know, man. They don't even know the time we spent on Peggle 1 on the PC.
Yeah. You just literally, if that's the name of the episode, literally the most time. And this I actually do mean literally the most time wasted on a meaningless activity.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a video game that wasn't like a progressive story of some kind that drained weeks of my life away.
Yeah.
To the point where we went in shifts.
Yeah.
We literally had shifts of people going. Like you'd have like the gray sockets under your eyes, like I gotta sleep, but all right.
Yeah, I gotta punch out, man. Tag me out.
Yeah, and then Dan, who we would play at, my roommate Dan at the time, the computer was in his room, and he would have to sleep, so he would just sleep while someone played with headphones in his room, which is terrifying now that I think about it.
Have you seen the Pixels trailer?
Pixels? I have seen it. Yes.
We talked about it last episode, but what are your thoughts?
Look, I mean, I'm gonna see it. Here's the thing.
That's what we said too. Like, there's a lot of hate around this movie, and I do think it's probably justified.
Probably, yeah.
But because on paper it sounds, oh, that's stupid, that's awful.
Yeah,
and
but
Adam Sandler's gonna Adam Sandlerize it.
Yeah. And the thing
After seeing the trailer, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna see this.
here's my thing about Adam Sandler. I love him and I hate his movies, but
Yeah.
the thing is, I can't fault him for making crappy movies because here's the thing: he's just like literally says, "I just want to make movies with my friends in fun places," and I respect that. The other thing is that those movies are not by any stretch for me and you. They're for people in middle school and high school who love them. So I can't fault the guy, even though his movies aren't my thing.
Yeah.
So you know, I respect to a degree that he's making a stupid movie like this that seems, you know, maybe dumb, but at the same time, I'm clearly going to see it. So
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because I kind of felt bad after publicly saying that we were excited to see it.
yeah, no.
But that's another thing we talked about at length was, okay, his audience are like, 15-year-old guys, 15-year-old like immature boys, right?
Yeah,
and,
they
like
love
that's probably why we loved like Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore and stuff.
Yeah.
But this movie, even though it's video games, is targeted towards like people our age that played those arcade games.
Yeah,
so it's a little bit weird that.
I think part of it is because this is more of a studio spec than it is like an Adam Sandler movie. This isn't derived from him as a vehicle for him. I think this is
even though it's from the writer of Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison.
Yeah, I mean they might have had it in mind too. Again, I don't know the production history, but it seems more like
I'm sorry. Do you know who co-wrote it with him though?
No.
Is what's his face that did George Lucas in Love?
Really?
Yeah, the USC guy.
That's so funny.
So hopefully it'll be good.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. We will see. Again, I'm not excited for it, but I'm certainly going to see it.
God, I don't want this episode to end.
I just wish this episode would go forever. I'll come back. I'm around.
Okay, yeah, you need to come back because there's a couple key stories that I've been sitting on this like whole video game podcast. these couple of stories, but I feel like it can only properly be told.
Well, I mean,
from
Seattle.
the two of us. Yeah. All right, but I guess we've made it. We've made it to this end of this episode. So go ahead and plug your stuff.
Oh, plug it. Well, I guess if I were plugging anything, I just wrote a comic book with TV's Yasser Lester, the comedian.
TV personality.
Yes, from Snackdown and Key and Peele, etc., etc.
Anyway, he recently lost on At Midnight.
Yes, he did lose on At Midnight, but he's coming back with a fury.
Yeah.
Anyway, we wrote a comic. It's called The Block. It's crazy. Starts in Brooklyn and winds up in space. And if you want to download a free copy, you can go to www.theblockcomic.tumblr.com.
Yep.
So it's theblockcomic.tumblr.com. And there's a free PDF download there. But also if you're in LA or the LA area, you can buy it at Meltdown Comics. So it's $2. You won't regret it.
When it's not sold out.
When it's not sold out, you know.
Yep.
But check it out. It's called The Block, issue 1. And that's the only plug that I have.
That's the only plug? Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, no, that's it. That's all we need.
You can also follow them on Twitter at The Block Comic. I am one of your 8 followers.
Yeah, we haven't really pushed that. So.
0 tweets so far.
Don't tweet. Who needs it?
As anybody that listens to this podcast know, we are nobody to criticize the way you do social media.
Yeah.
We have 16 followers, all of which are people we know in real life, and 2 other fans.
One day we'll tweet.
Yeah.
Yasser just tweets. He's got, 16, 17,000 followers or whatever.
Yeah, I think he tweets it all the time.
He just tweets there's no reason to have a social media account, but we did it for whatever reason. Anyway, check it out. Or don't. Please do. Or don't.
All right. Also, I mean, if you want to plug beer pong or whatever
it's
called.
I think we'll skip past all of my failures. That's your failure too, though. We're all on beer pong.
Oh, absolutely! I told you I was recognized. I know you have been, but I was recognized for being in that movie, and that's what's fucking weird.
That's so. My 2 favorite recognized stories from that movie were I told you at one time I was deathly ill and in sweatpants and I hadn't showered in days, and I was at Chipotle and these 3 middle schoolers came up to talk to me and they were all nervous and I was like, guys, I am not something worth being nervous about. I smell like meals from 3 days ago. And then the other one was, this is my favorite one, so drove a Ford Focus, not a great car. If you remember at one point my window was duct taped up because the window broke.
Yeah, I remember when we pulled up to a drive-thru and I was fucking hammered that night, and I just couldn't stop laughing that you had to open the door to get the drive-thru food.
Yep, because my window was duct tape up just to, if you're not keeping up. But anyway.
Wait, sorry. I remember laughing so hard for so long that at one point I was like, "Dude, what was I laughing at?" And you were not having it. You were laughing at my door, and then I started laughing again for 20 minutes.
That sounds about right. Yeah. Well, one time I was at a stoplight, and this group of like 6 or 7 middle schoolers, like, you know when dudes are in middle school and they're first getting like their sense of like group hostility mentality. They're like, eh. So they pull up next to me and they start pointing and laughing like, ah. And I was like, yeah, I get it. My fucking window is rolled up and it's duct tape. Yeah. And then right as I'm pulling off, I realize that they're not laughing at my window, and I hear one of the dudes be like, the guy from beer pong. And I was like, this is way worse. This is much worse.
I wish I was anonymous right now.
Yeah, right.
And of course, Allison, was that what it's called?
Yeah, my butt's on the internet.
Yeah.
My mom's reaction to that was, Michael, I didn't realize your butt wasn't so hairy. I thought it was going to be really hairy, and it's not. And I was like, okay.
Which also gave you too much information about the other males in your family.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, now I know my dad.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's great. That's my Twitter bio now.
Yeah.
My butt's not hairy like you think.
Okay. I mean, technically, this is the end of the episode, so I'm supposed to plug our stuff.
Plug your stuff, man. Plug away.
No, I just, you've heard it all before. We got a Twitter @NotFunPodcast, which Mike does not follow. We follow him. He doesn't follow us. Whatever.
I did not realize that. I'm doing it right now. This is really awkward. You just have people on the show, and then they'll follow you. That's how you do it.
I know. Well, that's kind of how we've gotten our followers so far. And then people that are fans of them follow us, too, for about a week.
Yeah, you're not gonna believe this, but I'm literally not able to load Twitter right now. I swear.
Yeah, I sure.
Sorry, plug away.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so we got a Twitter. Go ahead and not follow us there. We have a website. This is funnymorepodcast.com. Also, we got an email at Gmail, and we got Facebook that I never update because I never go on Facebook personally, so I definitely don't go on it professionally.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on, follow us. All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, please come back again.
Yeah, I will. I'll be here. I'll be here all till I die.
Okay. Yeah, certainly. It's a little bit easier. I mean, schedules are hard to coordinate anyways.
Yeah.
You're on the other side of the country, plus, couldn't get Phil here at the same time.
Yeah.
But hopefully Skype will make this a little bit easier to do in the future.
Yeah, and boom, new follower. You're welcome.
You're
welcome.
All right.
All right. Well, I look forward to the next opportunity.
Yeah. Did we think of a sign off?
I'm Mike, and I'm ugly. Ugly bald butt.
Nice.